You're on Red Hunt where the smallest choices can lead to the biggest consequences, starting with this one. My boyfriend, who is 36 years old, is going to a darts tournament in Las Vegas and invited me, a 35-year-old woman, to join him. We are in a long-distance relationship and only see each other 2 to 3 times per year. He informed me that his room came with a darts tournament package, which includes a smoking room, and he plans to smoke a lot of hookah. The room itself is a low-end option with no chairs. I suggested that I would be willing to pay for an upgrade, but he insisted on keeping the original room. After a week of contemplating how to get there, he offered to buy the plane ticket. There was one inexpensive option, but it was a late flight. The other tickets were significantly more expensive, so I reluctantly agreed to the late flight. I expressed my frustration with the late planning, as it often leads to higher costs and less desirable travel experiences. As he was arranging the flight, he mentioned that his best friend's brother would be staying in the room with us. I was taken aback and asked if he was joking. He confirmed he was serious, and I explained that I had never met this person before and did not feel comfortable sharing a room with someone I did not know. He responded that it did not matter because he would be there, but I emphasized that as a woman, it is not typical for me to share a room with a man I have never met. I requested privacy and he accused me of overreacting, insisting that I was stressing him out over a small detail. I disagreed, arguing that it was not a small detail to suddenly share a room with someone unfamiliar. I suggested that he book a separate room for his friend's brother. He dismissed the idea, stating it was out of the question. When I asked why the brother could not stay with his best friend, he explained that his friend was already staying with someone else. I then proposed that I book my own room, but he said he could not agree to that, claiming it would be a waste of money. I countered that it was not a waste of money if it was for my comfort, but he remained silent. I tried to reason with him, asserting that my feelings were valid and that many women would agree with my perspective. He acknowledged my discomfort but expressed that knowing I was uncomfortable would make him feel uncomfortable as well, prompting him to reconsider the travel plans. This reaction upset me, so I decided to book my own flight and my own room with my own money. He became very upset about the perceived waste of money and felt disrespected by my decision, suggesting that I visit Las Vegas by myself. After a few days, I attempted to discuss the situation again. I offered to compromise by finding a less expensive room, but he stated that there was no room for compromise on his end, insisting that I cancel my reservations if I did not want to go to Las Vegas according to his wishes. Now I am in the position of deciding whether to cancel my reservations. Am I the one in the wrong? Yeah, it's wild that he's feeling some type of way about the money you spent to enjoy your trip. I mean, if he thinks you should cancel your plans just because he wants things his way, that's a huge red flag. Do you really want to be with someone who pulls a power move like that? It sounds like he doesn't prioritize you at all. Honestly, when he said he'd rather you cancel, that should have been a wake-up call. You deserve to have a good time without feeling pressured. If he wants to see you, he should definitely make an effort. So take some time to think about whether this relationship is worth it. You're not obligated to put up with poor treatment. You deserve better. Aita for asking for separate checks. I went out to dinner with 2 of my friends. We all ordered our food, and before we received the check, I asked the waiter if we could have separate checks. I always do this unless I am dining with my parents, partner, or treating a friend for a special occasion. My friends drink alcohol and often order add-ons to their meals that are more expensive, typically ranging from $3 to $10 extra. I usually only drink water since I do not consume alcohol, and I tend to order relatively inexpensive meals that cost around $10 to $15. After I requested separate checks, one friend suggested that we should split the check evenly because it would be easier for the waitress and less complicated for them. I explained that I had ordered just one basic item and preferred to pay for what I ordered. The other friend agreed with me because we frequently eat out and usually receive separate checks. Sometimes I will pay for my male friend if he does not order alcohol and his meal is not expensive, as he has been generous to me in other ways. The friend who wanted to split the check is someone I do not dine out with often because this behavior has become a repeated pattern. She typically does not suggest splitting the check. Instead, she orders whatever she wants while our male friend ends up covering the entire bill. If one person ends up paying, I will send him the money through Zelle for what I ordered. He does not do this. He pays the bill without saying anything because he feels awkward discussing money, as he does not earn a high income. Our other friend is a single mother, so she tries not to spend much. If I did not initiate the conversation about separate checks, the responsibility would likely fall on our male friend, or I would end up paying more than what I ordered. I do not think that is fair to either of us. She will sometimes pay him back in other ways, such as picking up the tab for less expensive items like ice cream, but she ultimately ends up paying significantly less than we do, and I have put a stop to that. She told me that I can request my own check separately, but I do not need to insist that hers be separated from his if he wants to pay for her. She claimed he has not been complaining, so I should mind my own business. She said I am interfering with her meal and should focus on my own bill, rather than asking for the entire table to be separate or split, because he obviously does not mind paying. I told her that I am trying to make things fair for us because I do not want to pay more for my own tab. She insisted that I should remain silent and let him pay because he is the man in the group and he never complains about it. She argued that if he wanted separate checks, he could simply ask for them, but since he does not, we should not make a fuss about it. When we use a rideshare service to go out, I always automatically send money to my friend who pays for it, or he will send me money if I pay. However, she only contributes when explicitly asked. She is a good friend, but she often gets away with not paying for her meals or receiving the cheaper end of the deal. I had another friend who was even worse. She did not have cash at the time, so I paid for something. When I later requested the money back through Zelle, she read my message but ignored my request to pay me back $30. As a result, we are no longer friends. Wow, this message is wild. Your friend is being super rude and kind of cheap, taking advantage of you and that other guy. I mean, it's not a date, right? Expecting him to pay for her meals. That's just wild. Honestly, it sounds like it's time to put a stop to this. If your friend isn't comfortable saying something, that's a shame, but it doesn't mean you have to let her walk all over you. Accusing you of interfering. That's just ridiculous. She clearly has no empathy if she thinks it's okay to act like a leech. And yeah, she's not a good friend, she's more like a parasite. Just get your own check and don't let her pull that power move on you. You're not the problem here for sure. Aita for asking my roommate to call their parents outside our dorm. My college roommate, who is 23 years old, calls his parents every single day in our dorm room. He never mentioned this before we moved in. At first, I did not think much of it, but it eventually became unbearable to hear his family's conversations every night, especially around 10 p.m. That is usually when I am studying, watching television, or playing a game. When he gets ready to call them, he turns on the lights and tells me to pause what I am doing. I did not want to be disrespectful, so I let it slide for a while. I do not have that kind of close relationship with my parents at 20 years old, so it felt unusual. One time, he even called them while I was asleep and later apologized. About 4 days ago, I asked him if he could start taking his calls in the lounge down the hall. I explained that I should not have to hear private conversations every night, especially when I step out for my own. I also discussed this with my friends first, and they agreed that he should leave the room for calls. He said okay, and I told him that if his mother did not like it, he should explain it was because I did not want to hear their conversations. Then last night around 9 p.m., I returned from doing laundry and getting snacks, and he had his mother on FaceTime with the camera pointed at the door, wanting to talk to me. I assumed it was about what I had said. However, either he misrepresented what I said or she misunderstood, because she immediately began yelling at me. According to her, I referred to their calls as annoying. She criticized me, claiming I was not a good student because I play games and watch television, and said that I never study. She even claimed that my parents think I am a failure for playing games, which really upset me. I wanted to respond, but instead she used the "I am the adult, you are the child" argument. I paced back and forth trying to stay calm. Then she called me disrespectful for not getting on camera. I asked my roommate to end the call, but she overheard and became even more upset. Then her husband got on the phone and began criticizing me as well. He stated that they do not care about me, only their son, and that their son would do whatever they told him. He started yelling at me in Spanish and even threatened to come to campus in 35 minutes to handle it. At that point, I simply said, "Yes, sir," to avoid escalating the situation. Then the mother got back on and asked her son, while on speakerphone, if I hate women. Why? Because I was more respectful to her husband than to her. After the call ended, I just stared at my roommate, and he began to cry and ran out of the room. I called my friends right away because I was hurt. I wanted to have a civil conversation and reach an agreement, but instead, I was yelled at and disrespected by strangers. I spoke to my resident assistant afterward and asked if it was acceptable for parents to treat students like that. She said absolutely not and informed me that their behavior was unacceptable. She will be joining me when I talk to my roommate about what happened. I still do not know what I did wrong. Should I have ignored it? Hey, it sounds like that dad really crossed a line with his threats. You definitely should talk to campus administration about it, because no one should have to deal with that kind of vibe. I mean, setting boundaries is totally okay, and you don't deserve to be yelled at for it. Make sure the Raw knows what happened. His dad threatened you, and that's no joke. You might want to think about a new roommate if this keeps up. It's also possible that your roommate could be trying to shift blame onto you, so keep that in mind. You're not a kid, and his parents shouldn't treat you like one. You deserve respect in your living space. Just stay safe and handle this the right way. Aita for starting an argument over my partner asking their mom for everything. My boyfriend, who is 22 years old, and I, a 22-year-old woman, have been together for a little over a year. We both believe in dating for the purpose of marriage, so discussing marriage has been a part of our relationship since the first 6 months. He is transferring to a college that is more than 6 hours away from our current location. He has been living at home again because his parents are paying for his college education and have very strict expectations of him, which is why they wanted him back home. Upon learning about his transfer, we discussed the possibility of moving in together. This would not only benefit us financially, but also align with what we both want. However, his mother has made it clear that she will withdraw any financial support for his education if we decide to move in together. Her reasoning is that she believes I will get pregnant, which she thinks would ruin his life. I find this perspective troubling, as it undermines my autonomy and decision-making abilities. I have encouraged him to become financially independent, as I have been since I was 16 years old. However, he is concerned about the burden of financial responsibilities and the costs of attending a very expensive college. I understand his worries and have always told him that the decision to seek independence or continue accepting his parents' support is ultimately his to make. I have a very toxic family with whom I barely maintain contact, so I often question the validity of my feelings in this situation. I believe his mother's behavior is controlling, and I feel resentment because of how she treats him and perceives me. Despite my feelings, I remain cordial with his family as they are important to him, and he is very close to them. Because he relies heavily on his family, he often asks his mother for her opinion on various matters. If I suggest something, he may not believe me. Instead, if his mother gives the same advice, he suddenly accepts it as valid. For example, during a conversation about an upcoming interview, I made a suggestion. His response was that he would follow what his mother said instead. I felt annoyed because, as the woman in his life, I hope he does not prioritize his mother's opinion above mine at the age of 22. It is reasonable to take advice from her, but this situation is not an isolated incident, and it prompted my immediate reaction. Am I wrong for being upset about this and for starting a slight argument over the fact that he seems to value his mother's opinion more than mine? Honestly, it sounds like neither of you is quite ready for marriage yet. It's totally okay to seek advice from people, but he really needs to make his own choices too. I mean, you seem a bit resentful of his family ties, probably because of your own experiences, and that could cause issues down the line. Now about his folks withdrawing financial support, they have the right to do that. If they feel he should support himself while living with a partner, that's their call. It's really impressive that you've been independent since you were 16, but expecting him to cut ties with his mom's support just because of your feelings. Yeah, that isn't fair. He definitely needs to stand on his own 2 feet if you're thinking about building a life together. At 22, relying heavily on his mom's decisions isn't ideal for a future marriage. Just some things to think about before moving forward. Aita for not having a discussion with my partner while sick. I take care of my disabled brother on and off. He is dependent on other people for certain things, one of which is cooking. Over the weekend, specifically on Friday morning, he came down with what seems to be a stomach bug, experiencing excessive vomiting and diarrhea. I would drop off soups, medicine, and Pedialyte in his room, but would not come into physical contact. After dropping off supplies, I would immediately wash my hands. By Saturday night, my brother was acting completely better. He was moving around with no more vomiting or fever. The only contact we had that day was a hug. By Sunday night, I started to have intense stomach pains. About 20 minutes after the onset of those pains, I was profusely throwing up. My partner became irritated, saying that I should not have hugged my brother because now I am ill. Although he might be right, we do not know what contact specifically transferred the virus. It could have been using the same restroom. While I was actively throwing up, my partner started to say how negligent I am because I have been sick 3 times this year, and it is always after I have been around my brother, which is true. I respectfully asked him if we could please have this discussion at another time, as I was sweating, vomiting, and aching and not in the best shape to communicate. He continued to go on, so I eventually asked him to leave. I thought I would be better off helping myself without having to hear his complaints while I was struggling to move. This morning, when I woke up, I had about 10 messages from him saying that he loves me but thinks it is ridiculous that I have already been sick 3 times this year. He believes we need to have a serious discussion about why I went around my brother while he was knowingly sick. Sometimes it is not an option to avoid contact, as my brother has Down syndrome and cannot do certain things independently. I reiterated that we could have this discussion, but asked if we could please wait until I do not feel like I am on my deathbed. I have barely slept and was up all night vomiting. My head is throbbing. He called me once he got off work about 8 hours later and continued the same conversation, saying that I do not prioritize my health. He argued that if I did, I would have never hugged my brother only a day after he was sick. He talked nonstop for about 5 minutes until I finally said, "Can we please, for the 3rd time, talk about this another day? You could be completely right, but I am actively aching, vomiting, dizzy, and fatigued. All I need right now is to rest, not intensify the stress by going back and forth with you." He then hung up the phone and we have not spoken since. Am I in the wrong here? Wow, it really sounds like your boyfriend missed the mark on timing. I mean, conversations just don't flow when one person is feeling overwhelmed like that. Seriously, you shouldn't have to deal with being talked down to like a child. If he thinks that's okay, it's definitely time to reevaluate. You deserve support, not someone who just adds to your stress. Honestly, ignoring his calls might be the best move. No one needs a toxic vibe in their life, right? Just take a moment to wake up and see what you really have here. It might be a good idea to move on from that mess. You've got so much better waiting for you. Aitah for not paying for my kid to go to prom. My daughter's boyfriend's mother has exhibited toxic behavior. A few months ago, I blocked her after she threatened me regarding a Cash App account my daughter set up under my name for her boyfriend without informing me. My daughter is 17 years old. When the mother discovered the account, she confronted me because my daughter used my information for the setup, which resulted in my name appearing on the transactions. I attempted to explain that I was unaware of the account, but she continued to threaten me and demanded apologies. Since then, she has been blocked and I have forbidden my daughter from visiting their house because the mother continued to speak negatively about me and has made many unkind remarks about my daughter. Last week, my daughter expressed her desire to go on a trip with her boyfriend for spring break. I agreed because she assured me that her boyfriend's grandmother would be facilitating the trip without the mother's involvement. I paid for her trip and provided her with additional money after she reassured me that the mother would not be present. However, my daughter did not call me during the entire trip, which was unusual. I sent her a few messages but did not want to seem overbearing, as I understand that personal freedom is important at her age. Still, I had a feeling I knew why she was not communicating. Upon her return, I asked to see the pictures she took, and I noticed that her boyfriend's mother was tagged in them. When I clicked on the name, I discovered a group text indicating that the mother had been with them throughout the trip. This revelation upset me greatly, and as a result, I grounded my daughter. I recognized that prom is significant, so I did not eliminate it as an option immediately, although I considered it seriously before imposing the consequences. Today, I received a notification from her school app indicating that she is missing 10 assignments, some of which are crucial to her overall grade. When I brought this up, she appeared indifferent, brushing off my concerns as if I were bothering her. At this point, I feel at my wit's end and uncertain about how to proceed. I informed her that she would not be attending prom, to which she simply replied, "Okay. I know she cares about prom, especially since this is her senior prom, and I do not wish to take that opportunity away from her." However, I feel unable to follow through with allowing her to attend when she has consistently shown a lack of concern for the rules I established and for her academic success. Please provide your honest opinion on whether I am in the wrong so that I can gain some perspective on this situation before making any further decisions. Wow, it sounds like your daughter is really pushing some boundaries here. I mean, she used your information without asking, which could definitely land you in hot water. Plus, she knows her boyfriend's mom isn't cool with you but still took your money, all while lying about who she was with. That's a pretty self-absorbed vibe for a teenager, honestly. It's not uncommon for teens to act out, but good parenting means teaching them about consequences. If you decide to let her go, just make it clear that trust is lost and now she's responsible for her choices. Communication is super important right now. You really need to figure out what's going on with her and that boyfriend. Let her know that going on a trip without keeping you in the loop isn't okay. Honestly, forget about prom for now. It seems like there are bigger issues at play. You've got a year before she's an adult, and things really need to change before then. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.